I'm Doug Clow, and I've just given a talk at the OLnet event on Researcher 2.0, and it was on Scholarly Publishing 2.0. And what I was trying to argue there is that there's been an explosion of information, new forms of scholarly publishing, from the traditional e-journals, which have been around for a while, through to more back and forth stuff, Twitter, blogs, all sorts of messaging. OLnet that we were using in the session itself to broadcast that to people. And what I was arguing was that there's an information explosion, there's all sorts of useful tools to help you manage that. And what really matters is what you orient to as a scholarly community as being the high quality stuff. And traditionally that's been peer-reviewed articles and conference papers. And I think that actually applies even more so in the new environment. But what counts as peer review and how we do peer review can change. So we've got an idea for what we'd like to do with JIME, the Journal of Interactive Media in Education. It was founded in the early mid-90s as a completely new way of doing a journal with review happening in the open, on the web, which was new and exciting back then. That model's got a little bit tired and the technology's got a little bit broken, but we want to reinvent that, and one model for how that could work would be to include blogs as part of that process. So the author who's submitting an article posts it in their blog, sends us JIME the link. That goes through the initial filter from the editor, then it goes out to reviewers. The reviewers post their review on their own blog, and then we link it back at the journal, and then the author posts the revision of their paper to their own blog, and then it goes past the editors again, and then it gets bundled up into a final publication that gets included. And I think that's a really interesting model for how you could be much more open and use the media to their strengths rather than trying to just duplicate what we've done in traditional media. And the other thing I was going on about is one of my hobby horses about open access to electronic journals. Big movement to try and open up content, and there's lots of different models. There's the traditional subscription model where people pay to get access to the content. There's the open access model where you don't have to pay to get access to the content, and half of that is funded through author pays models, where you as the author of an article in these journals have to pay a page charge or something like that to get your article in there. But half of the open access journals are funded by other ways, whether it's the money comes from a society or a scholarly society or a research group or an institution that takes the cost. Because the costs of publishing electronic things are really low now, but e-journal costs have gone up double-digit inflation since they've been around, which is extraordinary for an electronic thing. And then there's self-archiving, e-prints, preprints, postprints, that sort of thing. And more journals and publishers are coming to agreements with institutions that will enable researchers to publish their archive, their articles there, which is opening up the literature to people who can't get at it through institutional subscriptions to these journals. And that's a really important matter for social justice and enabling more people to get hold of articles. It doesn't actually make that much difference to researchers with an institutional affiliation, a rich institutional affiliation, because they can already get at this stuff. There's lots of work that our library's doing and other libraries are doing in enabling seamless sign-on. So if you're on campus, you just click straight through to the full text of the articles in the journals that your library has a subscription to. So the open access movement isn't going to transform the research literature landscape in that sense, but it is going to open it up, and I think that's really important, and the social justice argument is very strong on there. So I think there's interesting things going on about what counts as new forms of scholarship, and the focus on quality I think is going to be increasingly important, because the only way to deal with an information explosion is to get better at filtering and working out what's the good stuff, and the good stuff is what we as a scholarly community orient to as being the good stuff, and it's not just what gets you citation counts to give you points in the REF, in the Research Excellence Framework, which will be what gets you research money in the near future. But I think it's really exciting times for scholarly publishing, and I look forward to see what happens in 5 years when I'll come back and watch this video and think, oh, I was so naive, I didn't think of, did I think that was important? But anyway, that's me.